Hello, everyone. My name is Sia Karamalegos, and I'm here to talk to you about Webmentions with Eleventy and the IndieWeb. You can find more about me at sia.codes. And I live in Durham, North Carolina now, but this was me in New Orleans. I lived there for 11 years, and I liked making my own costumes, which there's fewer opportunities to do that here, but that's me as a champagne bottle. I wouldn't even bother with this whole link if you just go to, so I've done versions of this at a few different meetups, actually like a while ago, and 3 years ago, but the basic information is the same. And if you go to the blog or even the homepage, I think it's still, I've updated it a few times. It's somewhere in here. Yeah. I have a tutorial about Webmentions in Eleventy. Yeah, I originally wrote it in 2019, updated it in 2021. There's a few things that could probably be changed, but like the core architecture is still the same, which is really amazing with Eleventy, that like it just still works. But I have made a few changes, but my code is also, it is also open source. And if you go like on my homepage, I'm just showing you where to find it so you don't have to memorize a bunch of links. If you go to my GitHub, I think I'm really, first of all, I'm very sad that my image is broken. Like GitHub somehow lost it because it's this amazing one with my dogs flying through space. But anyways, it's this pinned one at the top, sia.codes-11, and that's the source code. All right, so web engines are cool. If I go to one of my articles, let's do a little show and tell. And if I go to the bottom, this is one I wrote a long time ago about Eleventy and data. And I probably should have chosen a shorter one so we don't have to scroll so far. But at the bottom, you can see this section called Webmentions. And you can see I have 77 likes, 18 retweets, retweets, boosts, reposts, and 15 comments. And then the comments themselves are down here. I used to have a face pile, but I got rid of it once I switched. I killed my Twitter account and I'm on Mastodon now. But what's cool is like I can merge all of that old data with the new data, and they were called different things and the faces were coming from different places. So I got rid of the face pile. But it's really cool because you can integrate social reactions into your website from other places or just from the core like web mention protocol. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but that's what I'm talking about today, is like how you integrate all of this into your Eleventy architecture. So web engines enable one site or like URL to notify another site that the former contains a reference to the latter, and it has multiple subcategories. There's likes, comments, reposts. I don't know if there's more. Those are the only ones I track, but there might be more of them as well. So when you link to a site, you can send it a web mention to notify it. If it supports web mentions, then that website may display your post as a comment, like, or other response, and presto, you're having a conversation. So we're having conversations from one site to another without actually having to involve like a third party, which you can also do it with third parties as well, but it's cool that you can separate this out. So the IndieWeb, if you haven't heard of it, is a people-focused alternative to the corporate web. And the main principles, which you might already be aware of these, because if you're using Eleventy, I feel like there's a lot of overlap between people that use Eleventy and people that are into the IndieWeb, but it's to own your own domain and own your own content and data. And of course, this can be sourced in a number of ways. Like you could have the content originating from another service and then you're syndicating it to yourself, or you can do the reverse, which is your site is the main source of truth pushing out. There's a way to call that and I forgot. But we can optionally syndicate elsewhere as well. So I don't really do this anymore, but for example, I can write my blog posts on my webpage and then I can copy them into dev.to and just set the canonical link on dev.to that points back to my website so that my website is known as like the source of truth, which theoretically means you don't get an SEO hit, but like sometimes, like for example, dev.to is probably a higher ranked domain than my own website. So it might still outrank my own version of the post. So when I post new, or when I used to syndicate, I would always post to my website for a while before I actually syndicated to the other site so that I could get a chance to be higher in the rankings than the syndicated source. And then we can still connect with everyone using web mentions. So we have all these aspects of working in the web, but making it indie style. So how does it all work together? So webmention.io is a service it's a hosted service created to easily receive web mentions on any web page. So you sign up here, there's more about it there. And what it does is it gives you these two links to put into the head of your doc, of your HTML. And pingback is just an older protocol, but these allow you to start collecting web mentions on your behalf, or allows webmentions.io to start that collection on your behalf, like for your domain. And then that's like starting to collect them. To actually send a web mention, you would do a post request, and the minimum required is to have your source, which is like your own domain, and the target, the post that you're replying to. So in a curl, this is what it would look like. That's my domain, and then the source and the target, or the web mention ID. So I have a form on my blog pages. I'm not sending curl requests from the web. So what it looks like is my form action goes to my web mention link and as a post method. And then I have a hidden input that gives the URL of that current page that they're on. I should have mentioned, it's probably down here. Yeah, so it's just this little mini form. So all they have to do is put their own URL in, and then click set web mention. And I have this hidden input that gives that full URL of that page. So we know it's like this specific article that they're sending a web mention about. And then this is their input of their URL. But that's a lot. And a lot of us are using other social accounts. And Bridgie is this cool service that you can set up that will connect to your social accounts, so that you can collect web mentions from other sites like Twitter and Mastodon. Primarily, if you were a big image user or for your website too, you could connect Instagram. Actually, I should do a now page and collect my Instagram. I have a Lego city that especially the tech crowd seems interested in. It has its own like Instagram account. So maybe I should have a Lego page on my site and all these others. I do think Meetup was dropped from the list. I didn't do a new screenshot, but I just went on the Bridgie website yesterday and noticed that. I was like, wait, something's different. And I think Meetup is no longer there. Someday dev.to is going to get it together and finish. Like they started an API to do this and it just never finished, or it was like not documented. But anyways, it would have been cool to do that. Although I don't post there anymore, so I don't know if I really care. All right. And this is what it looks like when you're logged in. This was back in the days when I had a Twitter account, but it looks the same on Mac. Oh, that's what's really cool. It's like when I switched, of course, now that I've killed my account entirely, like I don't get any new web mentions from Twitter. But if I had kept it, I could get both. But like to add Mastodon, literally all I did was log into Bridgie with my Mastodon account and it just started collecting it. Like that was the extent of doing that switch. I didn't have to do any code changes on my website. The web mentions just started populating. So yeah, it's a weird UI, but yeah, we can see that all these random tweets, no web mentions, but like this one, there's a target sent. So that's cool. And then it polls, you can hit these buttons, but like I never do. Only when I'm doing stuff live, I might do that to see if something caught. So what's that order? Like you had to sign up for, or you had to set up an IndieAuth account so you can log in with your domain. So IndieAuth is a way that you can log in using your domain. So I can log in with Sia.codes into these sites. And then you sign up on webmention.io to get those two link tags to put in the head of your HTML. And it'll give you an API key as well. You want to securely save that. And then you can optionally sign up for a social media web mention service like Bridgie. So let's talk about Eleventy. Do you like my little images here? What is this called? It was like duotone or something. It was like a big thing with Spotify for a while. So I like made a bunch of like duotone possums. And then someone was like, oh, that should be the name of your like rock group, rock band, duotone possum. Anyways, I get sidetracked easily. So a lot of times when I've given this talk, it's actually been to a crowd that's new to Eleventy. So we're just going to flash through this part. Oh yeah, we all know Eleventy rocks, all this stuff. Yay, yay. That's the demo, how to do it. My favorite features. Oh, and this is the blog post, of course. All right, so let's get down to business and let's talk about the process. I started making pictures because I feel like once you understand the process, then the code is easier. The first step is in production. We're going to fetch new web mentions during that build time because, again, Corey was talking about Eleventy is a static site generator. So we're going to do this stuff at build time rather than at request time, like when someone's trying to get to our page. Which you could do it at request time, but then you need like front-end JavaScript to handle rendering, and that's a pain. That's why we use Eleventy. You're going to store them in a cache file. I actually forgot. I might have dropped my cache file because when I had to update something in Netlify, and I was like, how do I get my cache file out? Because I was worried it would take forever, and all I did was like rebuild the whole thing, and it took 3 seconds. So I was like, oh, I don't know if I really needed that cache file. I can just request them every time. It's fine. We're going to render the web mentions. And then we're going to set up periodic builds. So let's draw a picture of OSO serverless. So we got these 3 entities, right? GitHub, Netlify, and that's my laptop with some code. So you got to use your imagination a little bit with my drawings. So like I'm on my laptop and I make some code changes. I'm going to do git push, and that goes to my main branch on GitHub. And then I have an action that listens. Oh, actually, this is just the standard Netlify hook. I'm using Netlify for my builds. So once you set up Netlify with a GitHub repo, it will automatically set up a webhook so that when you push to main, or this is how I have it set up. When I push to main, it will automatically trigger a build and deploy. This is like more of a standard process. If you set up the cache thing, you'll have this folder that will stay between builds on Netlify. Otherwise, like all the code just gets like exploded. And so it's just the new build. Although to be fair, with Netlify, you can easily roll back in case you break something. And then I have an additional GitHub action that it used to be every 4 hours. I might have extended this because I'm like, I don't necessarily care if I get web mentions left off. And I haven't hit my peak or the max build time on Netlify yet, which is actually quite nice. But you can set it up to, whatever period you want using essentially fake cron jobs on GitHub, which is also something that Corey was doing. This is like the most amazing thing when GitHub Actions first came out. It's because you used to have to like pay for that service, or cron jobs on the web used to be free, but then they started charging. So this is this used to be the people like the most about my presentation. It was like none of this stuff. It was like, how did I do a fake cron job on GitHub Actions? And then Netlify also stores my environment variable. So I really love Netlify for a number of things. Remember that web mention API key? I store that in Netlify, and then on my computer, I can run Netlify dev, which pulls in the value of that environment variable so that when I'm running locally, I can use it as well, which is cool. And then I don't have to, I used to use, .env to manage my environment variables, but now I'm like, I could just use Netlify. So the next step is now we're into the code, right? I'm going to fetch new web mentions. This is on build. So in my data files, I start fetching web mentions, and this is where I mentioned all my prior art. I started with Max's post about the IndieWeb, and then also looked at the code at Zach's site. This is all a long time ago too, and sprinkled in micro formats from Keith's post and made my own changes. And then I've made changes since. This is why I always say, just look at my live code to see what I'm currently doing if you want to know what's going on, because the stuff is going to change a lot. And I make major changes to the post, but not necessarily all the rest of the stuff. And then this is the write to cache file, which we can look at a little bit later. Oh, I did want to say, I forgot at the beginning of my presentation, I haven't used Eleventy fetch yet. So I'm curious, anyone who has, if they want to give me feedback on a way I could update all of this. But this is my write to cache file step, which I may or may not still be doing. Set up a Netlify cache plugin. This was my old cache plugin. It needs some updates. If anyone wants to contribute to this and update it for Dependabot issues, it's got Dependabot issues. It still works. It's just whatever. So that was a cache plugin. There's several other plugins as well, though. And then I use a lot of filters to get my data in a state so I can get web mentions for a specific URL, get the size of those web mentions. So I can say 77 likes, and then web mentions by type. So like likes really for the comments mostly. And then set all my variables needed in my nunjux file, like size, mentions, likes, replies. And this is just so I have them all ready for that render part. And then I'm looping through this data. This part's less important too, because you're not going to remember this from a talk. But yes, I'm looping. If the replies are greater than 0, I'm going to loop through all those replies and then include my template just for the web mention itself, which, as we see here, is, you get the pretty face and a picture and the time date stamp and the link. And then I also include the source, which of course that's a dead link now because I no longer have that Twitter account. And then we render the web mentions. Here's that little snippet that I just showed, which is probably simplified here. And here's that fake cron job, which is really quite short for this because it's only one API hit versus like Corey's was doing several different servers. But yeah, it's a scheduled build. And this says at 20 minutes pass every 4th hour from 0 to 23. This is definitely different now. I actually have no idea what it says right now. And trigger the build hook. So all we do is it's literally just a hook to your Netlify build, which is the same on it's the same hook that's on for rebuilding it when you push to main. And then pass in this Netlify build token, which is stored in your GitHub secrets. I think that's all. It's a party possum. And there's more links again. We can take questions. We can look at that code and see if I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing. I'm going to look back in this chat to see if I missed. Hey, you lived in Charlotte. All right. Replying. Or if someone just knows the Twitter shut down the API access too. Okay, so that's great. Then like whatever, because they shut down access to everything. And God, they're terrible. Feel free to unmute yourself and just ask your questions too. Is there a good resource for learning to use GitHub Actions? Oh my God, I don't know if someone else has a suggestion for that. I feel like it's easier to just Google specifically what you want to do. Like they have docs, but I don't know. Personally, I feel like those docs are a bit intense.
Yeah, they are. But yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah, I was intimidated by them.
Yeah, you're not alone. Yeah, or anyone who's newer to coding or newer to Indie, like, yeah, people only know what they know anyways. Unless you're like building GitHub Actions daily, you're not gonna know that stuff off the top. But yeah, I think I was looking up how to do a cron job and I found some random post that showed me how to do it with GitHub Actions. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Currently, I pull my Webmentions client side, but I've been wanting to fetch them at build time too. Yes, you can only fetch the latest 4 page if you would like. Like I said, actually, you know what we can do? I can log into Netlify so we can see what's going on there. Of course, I have to spell it correctly. Typing and talking at the same time, it's hard. Oh yeah, all of these services are free that I just mentioned. So I think I log in with GitHub. Now y'all just saw my email address. Oh, Jesus.
My question was a little bit related to that. You're both on regular GitHub accounts, not paid GitHub accounts, because you're doing a lot with GitHub Actions.
Or at least I am.
Wow, I really thought that they had that locked down so that you couldn't do much with GitHub Actions without paying.
I have a pro account, but I don't think I need it.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, I used to have a pro account because of the private repos, but now they let you have private repos. So yeah, we can see. This is only from April 1st, but yeah, bandwidth used, build minutes used. So clearly my builds aren't taking too long. I can like look at my, yeah, they're taking like 30 seconds. And we can even look in the, oh wait, I think was that a push? Nope, that was Webmentions. Oh yeah, I still have the cache. So it's 1,500 Webmentions loaded from cache, 0 new Webmentions. I haven't posted anything recently or however often I'm doing it, but yeah. It's nice to see this stuff in here. What is this? Oh, because I use Netlify forms. That's what's amazing too. Sorry, now I'm going to go on like a Netlify crush thing, but like my contact form just uses Netlify forms and they also like filter out most of the junk. But this is also free up to 1,000 submissions per month, I think. I forget. Which it's my personal site, so I'm not getting 1,000 submissions per month. I think I'm not that popular.
From what I understand, both Vercel and Netlify will update a site if the selected branch is updated, but is what you're doing and what Corey's doing a little bit too complicated for what it does automatically? That's why you need to use the GitHub Actions to do the deployment?
I don't update my code that often. Like my code is stable. So unless I am making some other change to my website, I'm not going to wait till then. So if I go in here and look at my action.
Oh, so it doesn't do it off, wait a minute.
Because it's only going to do it when you update that branch. So it's only going to do it when you push like a commit to your branch. And
Okay,
I'm doing them every 12 hours, it looks like. So Shiv said, note that GitHub Actions will stop running your scheduled workflows if you have 60 days of inactivity or more. This is true. I got an email one day. I think it's inactivity on that repo because I do stuff for work in GitHub, but I'm not always coding on my personal site. But it sent me like a warning. I was able to like do some random change. So I started doing it again. All the services are free. Yeah, and Bridgie and Webmention are also free and community run. When people send Webmentions on replying to your post, might they have to wait? Yes, because I do only do it technically like up to 12 hours, they would have to wait. But yeah, so it's not instant, but also it's not like something, for example, on social directly. So people are chatting on Mastodon. You don't want to wait 12 hours for a response, but like it's my website. It's just posting something that's already posted somewhere else. So I don't really mind that delay.
Yeah, I think I've noticed a delay with like Webmention ingesting the actual mentions too, and then processing them out. So
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, also Bridgie too.
it's-
It's only going to poll. I forget how often it shows it on the website. And remember, they're free services.
Yeah, I think I looked it up too, and I think they said they're running it on one server or something like that for less
Right.
than $30 a month for the whole service.
Isn't that amazing? That doesn't even. Yeah, our build times seem to be about the same, but you're doing more. I think I need to upgrade my Eleventy too. I just haven't. I was on 0 and I finally went to 1. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm so new to it. I ended up on 2 or something, but
Yeah,
it's.
one.
I was surprised by how fast it was, considering it's
Wait,
making
maybe
API
I'm
calls every
not.
time.
I thought I had upgraded. So apparently I still need to upgrade 11. I'll do that at some point. There's a, oh yeah, Telegraph also. I've never played with Telegraph, but I know it does stuff too. Yeah, you can do client side and get them fast words, but there's still going to be delay from like both Webmention and Bridgie. If you're doing Bridgie, if you're doing directly Webmentions, then it would probably be faster. The upgrade to version 2 is pretty painless. Thank you for letting me know that, Anthony.
Yeah.
I thought I had
Remy
upgraded
Sharp-
to 1, but maybe that was like on a different website.
I think Remy Sharp used to have a hosted service that would handle Webmentions getting relayed out, but I think he hit some interaction limit that caused Vercel to shut it down repeatedly, and he just stopped.
Yeah, I think it was webmention.app or something like that got stuck in some Vercel limits. But there is actually a Netlify plugin to be able to, you hook it up to your RSS feed and it'll use that to send out Webmentions.
I'm like opening this link that Rich shared. Thanks for that. It's going to be one of my million tabs that are going to stay open after this. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Any other 11 discussion? I could also just stop sharing and could chat about 11.